Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Misfit Playbook interview series. I'm Nelson DeWitt, in for Laura D'Ambrosio today, and we have our very special guest, CC Chapman, today. How you doing, CC?
Doing good, buddy. How you doing?
Very good. Just waiting for things to warm up here in New England.
No kidding. I'm like, I hope this weekend the last of the snow will be gone. I mean, I know it's supposed to be like in the 60s finally, so I'm looking out the window and hopefully that last snow will be gone.
So do I. All right, so we're here today to talk about the Misfit Playbook, and we wanted to hear from you because you're a great writer and you have a lot of thoughts that I think align with some of the principles that we've kind of tried to discern from what it means to be a misfit. So uh, I guess we'll start with we've sent you some principles that are representative, we feel, of what it means to be a misfit. And which one of those, or which ones, stood out to you the most?
Oh. I feel bad. I honestly don't remember them off the top of my head. Oh my god. I feel horrible.
All right. Well, I can read some to you, and you can.
Let's do that.
All right. So we have handcraft, which is to pay attention to the details. We have attitude. We have to choose. We have collaborate, experiment, embrace local, love, sit in the chair, have faith, be passionate, be vulnerable, be authentic.
Well, they all hit home for me, of course. I mean, you know me well enough to know that. But I mean, I think the first one that pops off at me is to be passionate, because I think, especially in today's world where all things aside, if you can do something that you're passionate about, if you can, even if it's just on the side or it's at night or whatever, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then it's kind of pointless to do it. I mean, whenever I hear these people talk about, oh, I don't have time to do that, yet they're kicking back for 3 hours watching TV or goofing off online, I'm like, well, no, you do. You just got to find out what it is you're passionate about. And it's one of those things where the other thing too that and I was kind of bad about this too for a long time. I pushed people, do what you're passionate about, and it has to be for work, not for it, but you can do what you're passionate about for work. When the reality is sometimes you can't. Sometimes passions should be just purely for passions too. I mean, take photography for me. While I get hired to shoot photos sometimes, I never consider myself a professional photographer because photography is a passion for me. I just enjoy taking it. There's nothing that makes me happier than taking photos, and that will always be a side hustle, a passion project, whatever you want to call it, because it's not how I want to make my living. And I don't think sometimes it gets messed up where people think, oh my god, I have to do what I'm passionate about for a living, and that's not the reality for everybody. It's really not. It's beautiful when it can happen, but it's not the reality.
Do you have maybe a story or an example, other than photography, maybe one that's a little deeper personally, about where you had to decide to follow your passion as opposed to, or just the time that you chased your passion?
Well, I think I'm doing it right now. I mean, I really, really am, because last year, I was I thought I had found a job that I was super psyched about. It was something that I could never see leaving. I was committed to the vision, committed to everything, and then it just kind of, the whole company just kind of imploded out of, it wasn't my company. There's a lot of things, leave the why aside. But I got done with that, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I could have just jumped back into something else, but instead I said, you know what? I really want to take these years and years of marketing knowledge that I've got and use it for social good rather than selling soda or movies or whatnot. I mean, all that stuff's fun, what I did in the past, but now I really want to focus on helping nonprofits and helping NGOs and helping brands tell their story and using social good. And it's what I'm passionate. It's always been there in the back of my head, giving back, volunteering, all that stuff. And I finally committed to saying, you know what, I'm going to give it a try to see if I can make a living doing this. And I'm in the middle of the struggle right now. It's not, I wish it was all, puppies and rainbows, but it sure as heck isn't. And it's tough. And there's days where I go, yeah, but I'm like, you know what, I'm sticking it out. I don't have a timeline in my head but I'm determined. I've got to make it work. And people keep telling, giving me words of encouragement and stuff. So I'm in the midst of it right now for sure.
So if you had to give advice about this to someone else, and this may be tough because you are in the middle of it, as you said, but how would you encourage other people to find or follow their passion?
Well, I think finding it and following it are definitely two different bits of advice. I mean, finding it is really, you can love doing things, and it may not be your passion necessarily. Like cooking for me, I love to cook, love cooking, but it's definitely not a passion of mine. I think passions are things. Finding your passion, or it's those things that you can't live without. You just can't. And that you get immense pleasure from it, even when it goes wrong. That finding those things where you just think about them constantly, those are your passions. And then following them, I mean, following them is one of those things is you've got to be committed to it, but you've also got to make sure that you take care of other things. I've got a awesome wife and kids and a mortgage and things like that. And my advice to everybody is before you try jumping and following and chasing your passions, is make sure you've got your base taken care of. Make sure that you're not going to starve because of it. Being a starving artist is no way to live your life. Maybe if you're single and 19, maybe it's a little bit more glamorous, but it's not once you have responsibilities. So my advice to always when they're trying to follow their passions is make sure you've got your basics covered. Make sure that things are taken care of, because otherwise, you could ruin your life, plain and simple. You really could. You could lose things that matter to you. And I'm blessed to have the perfect partner in this with my wife, who supports and advocates for me to do this because she knows it's what I love doing. So finding that person to help you is always a good thing.
So you said we had this conversation in another interview, which is what if you don't know your passion? What if you're unsure about where your passions lie? And I think an interesting example is, like you said, with cooking and photography. How do you know that cooking's not a passion and photography is?
It, One thing I think is, I think having things you're passionate about makes life more enjoyable, for sure. Um, I don't think you have to be on this constant quest to find your passions either. I think some people are like, oh, I must find them. And don't get me wrong, I hope everybody does. But at the same time, sometimes you need to be focused on, working, or building your business, or taking care of your family, or sickness, or health. There's all these things. So I don't think you have to seek them out, but I think one of the, for me at least, is you always want to expose yourself to as many things as possible. Everybody should be a lifelong student. I talk about wondering and wandering. You should do that to find out what's really passionate about, because I think the more experiences you get, the more people you meet, the more places you go, I think you start getting exposed to all these different things and realizing what really matters to you. And some of it comes with age. I mean, I look at my kids. I have two teenagers, and I don't know if either of them are super passionate about anything yet. And sometimes you're blessed when you get it at a young age, and sometimes you're not. And age does help find those passions, for sure. I mean, I've been on Earth now 42 years. I've had some time to search it out and find them.
So, one of the things we try to do with these series is break it out into steps. So it kind of sounds like step one is just try different things, and you said read a lot, have a lot of experiences, and see what turns you on and what excites you.
And get out and on that too is get outside of your own little echo chamber, or comfort zone. If only I think of myself as a creative, and I've tried pretty much every sort of creativity. Painting and singing, not good at that. Painting I don't enjoy, but I tried it. I think it's one of those things where to get outside of your comfort zone is definitely a part of it, and to be constantly consuming stuff too. Like I love reading. I read constantly, and like my personal rule is I read a fiction book, then I read a nonfiction book, because I found that I was only reading business books and marketing books, and I'm like, ugh, this is getting, I need new exposure, and I try to find new things. I think people get too stuck in their comfort zones, especially in the online world, where they just, they surround themselves by the similar ilk. Like I love reading, not getting political, but I love reading sites and watching news that is not the same as my political view, because it's always fascinating to see what's out there. So I think step one is getting exposure, and getting exposure to different things in you. I mean, step two is, trying to learn skills too, especially if your passion has anything to do with skills at all, is getting better at those skills. Photography, cooking, knitting, whatever it might be. If you're passionate about it, you probably can get better at it. I think that's the other thing too. That's a good factor for figuring out if it is something you're truly passionate about. Because if you're passionate about it, you want to get better at it, and you'll do anything to get better at it, and you don't even think about it. It's never a chore. It's just, all right, I love doing it. Like, I never, while doing post-production on photos, as you know, can sometimes feel like a chore. It still feels good. It's one of those things, and I think when it's truly a passion of yours, you want to get as good at it as possible. Is probably another step in the process. So whether that's formal training or just doing more of it so you get better at it, I think definitely helps. I think that's, yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of something that Amos Kennedy said, where he said, and I don't remember exactly, but it was along the lines of enjoy the little details. When the chores of doing your art become enjoyable, then
yeah. He is such a smart guy, so full of love and passion, and then just really, really smart. Very smart guy.
All right, so we have get out of your comfort zone. We have try and get better. What else? How else can people find their passion, but also follow their passion? Or maybe it's more. Maybe we're talking more about following your passion, because I think you made a great point earlier.
I think one of the things you have to do too, another step in this is, and I'll quote Austin Kleon, the author, is show your work. You got to put it out there. Or Seth Godin, who I know you're a fan of too, talks about you have to ship. If you're truly passionate about something and it's never public, I would question if that's I never really thought about it, but I would question if that's a passion of yours, because part of following it is putting it out there, right? Because when you're passionate about something, people are going to critique it. They're going to maybe hate on it. You never know, especially in the internet world. But you won't care. You will care. It'll hit you in the gut and rip your heart out. But at the same time, you're gonna all right, I'm gonna do it more and more. I mean, I vividly remember my first negative, hateful review of a book I wrote, and I was like, oh my God. But I was like, you know what? It made me want to do it even more. It made me want to commit more. So I think if you're truly passionate about something, you've got to put it out there, because otherwise, no one knows about it. And is it really real if you just keep it in your, behind closed doors? I think if you're truly passionate about it and you want to follow it, I think it's natural progression that you have to put it out there. You have to say, I do this and I love it, and because the more I think about it, because you can't really keep passion behind closed doors. It doesn't work that way.
And I think that goes back to getting better at your craft as well, because you can't really, the idea that the writer or the painter is just going to sit behind closed doors and work and work and work, and then one day, everyone will show up, I think is...
It's silly, right? Yeah, especially if you want to do something with it, if you want this to turn into something more than purely passion, to turn into any sort of livelihood, you have to put it out there, and that's scary. It's super scary. It's super fearful. Nobody likes critics, and you're gonna get critics if you're ever gonna get to any level of success. It comes with the territory, and it's rough. It's tough, especially in today's world where you can be an anonymous critic as loud as you want to be. So it's tough.
So that kind of sounds like maybe the next level or the next step in this is dealing with the criticism, and I guess my next question would be, how do you deal with the critics?
I realize, okay, it depends. It really depends. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, you realize that if I feel good about it, that's what really matters. And then the critics, it depends who they are. It really does. Because if it's just some anonymous person online, be a duck and just let it wash off you. It doesn't matter. It's easier said than done, don't get me wrong. But it's just like, you know what, get away from it. What's tough is when you get that critique from someone you respect, so a friend even, and it hurts, but I think the difference is, if it's constructive criticism, you've got to learn to take it. It's one of those things where I've been very fortunate, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I am very open and very accepting of constructive criticism. If it's just, this sucks, go away, Cece, that doesn't help. But if it's, hey, Cece, I really didn't like it, and here's why, I thrive off of that. And maybe it's from, growing up in a theater background where you're constantly getting critiqued, by the director and stuff, and it makes it, you understand that it makes it better. I don't know if that's why, but I just try to ignore it. But I do read it all. I always love when you hear movie stars, oh, I don't read my reviews. I'm like, shut up. I have to read because I want to see what people say, and it does get easier the more you get exposed to it. I mean, you kind of develop a thicker skin. It still hurts, don't get me wrong, but you do get better at it. And I've been doing this a long time, so I've gotten better with it over time. And I think just you learn to deal with it, but you have to realize that it's not the end of the world if someone hates your stuff. Every musician, everybody has had critics. Every single person has had critics, and they will always have critics, and they'll always be out there. It should never get in your way of pushing forward, though.
This is reminding me of there was a story or metaphor in your book, Amazing Things Will Happen, where you talk about a duck in the rain or a duck in water.
Yeah. The fact that ducks, there's the whole thing about being a duck. The fact that, if you've ever seen a duck swimming around in a pond and it starts raining, the duck doesn't care. The duck's already in the water. The duck just lets the water wash over him. And it's just a saying that I've always kind of, to just go quack, quack and just let it roll off you, especially when it's things that you can't control. There's always going to be things in this life that you can't control and that really aren't that big of a deal. And if you react to them, then it's part of your life. Then it's part of your situation. And I think the internet as a whole could learn to be more like a duck because everybody feels like they have to comment on everything and they have to react to every post they see. And sometimes you just go, you know what, that bothers me, but yeah, just let it go away. And yeah, so we have little Lego ducks around the house, and I gave a friend of mine, she has a poster hanging up in her that says "Be a Duck." So yeah, no, I think it makes life a little bit easier just to let stuff wash off you like water off a duck.
And part of this too sounds like you will have passions that maybe other people don't like or they will judge you for, and that you have to be yourself or embrace those passions despite, never mind the critics, but just what other people think of like if people think photography's stupid for whatever reason, and they judge you for it, but you have to sort of be proud of the things that you're passionate about, even if they're odd and quirky.
Yeah, and I think that's I saw there's this woman named Commander Holly. She's a special effects person, and I had the pleasure of meeting her several years ago. And she makes she does a lot of cosplay, and she does a lot of like custom special effects costumes and stuff. And I saw a video recently where she made a video to her 13-year-old self, and I'll never forget, she said, listen, the things that you're getting picked on right now because they're different are the things that are going to be celebrated about you later in life and what people love. And I went, yes, because it's so true. Because like I look at my kids and I'm trying to explain to them, like, listen, if you love doing it, do it. Do not let somebody else, and they're at that tough age, the worst age, I think, when teenagers, where other kids become so judgmental for, you get in. But yeah, if something's a true passion about yours, you have to do it, and that's, and you're right. Sometimes when it's quirky and weird, it can be awkward. I was a theater geek at a business school. What goes on? Come on. But I love doing it, and I wouldn't trade it for the world because the people I met, are still some of my best friends in the world.
Very cool. I'm wondering if there are any more steps. I'm not really, I feel like that's a really good place to start and wrapping it together, but.
Yeah, I think that. I was trying to think of that because I was trying to think, are there any other steps out there? And I don't think there is. But you just, and then it kind of goes back and it goes almost in a circle because, you have to keep getting better at it and putting it out, and maybe it evolves, maybe it changes. Like speaking about photography, that first time you print out one of your photos, especially in today's world, and hang it on the wall or something, that's a whole. Yeah, I know. That's what was maybe thinking of it. That's a big step, right? Because it makes it real and tangible. And I know, especially in today's world, it's really kind of neat. You talk one of the other words I know is handmade, and it's really neat in today's digital world when your passion can actually create something tangible that actually because far too often we kind of skip over that step these days. And I don't know if that's a direct next step, but I think it's definitely a piece of it depending on what your passion is. If you can actually touch it, feel it, it's even cooler.
Yeah, maybe that's the last step is kind of rinse and repeat.
Maybe, yeah.
Go back, explore more. Go down the rabbit hole of your passion, learn a bit more, try
Yeah,
and
because
get
you're
better again.
yeah, because you're never gonna. Hopefully, if it's truly a passion, you're never gonna get tired of it ever. It's always, even if you stop doing it. Like theater is a passion of mine. I miss the stage so badly, but now when I give keynotes and stuff, it cures that need sometimes. Um, but it's one of those things where it's still in the back of your head, like you keep wanting to do it more and more, even if it's dormant at the moment. But I think that's definitely a thing for passions too. Is it never completely goes out. You've always got even that pilot light burning, even if it's not a bonfire at the moment.
Very cool. Well, Cece, I want to thank you for coming on and helping us with the playbook. We're very excited to move it forward and share some of your advice and everyone else's. And we've been ending these interviews with the same question, which is, who do you want to hear from? Who from the Misfit community, speaker or attendee or otherwise, would you love to hear their opinion and advice on these principles?
Man, there's so many, so many. You know who I would love to hear, just because I think he is not the typical misfit at all, would be Justin Levy. Have you interviewed him yet?
We have not, no.
I think just because Justin doesn't act like a misfit, like the typical misfit for our world, yet he is so a misfit. And I would love to hear him. I would love to hear him answer these questions. Would love it.
Awesome. Well, we will certainly try and track him down, and hopefully he will do one of these interviews. But again, CC, thank you so much for being on the I don't know, web video today, and
Whatever it is, right?
what hangout, whatever you want to call it. And
No, thank you for having me.
all right, thanks everyone for watching.